Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And now it's time for the final session, Roundtable, Integrating Taiwan into Indo-Pacific Strategies. After a long day of discussions, and now we're going to wrap up with some final solutions and recommendations for how to strengthen Taiwan's strategy and how Taiwan can be useful for other countries' strategies. Experts from India, the US, Japan, and Taiwan will share with us their insights and guidance, hoping they will serve as practical reference for the future. Our moderator for this session is Dr. Xinhua Michael Hsiao, Chairman of TAEF. Welcome. And now we welcome our panelists, Mr. Fei Fan Lin, Deputy Secretary General of the National Security Council, Taiwan. Welcome. Welcoming back to the stage, Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, the Director General of National Maritime Foundation, India. And again, Mr. Satu Limaye, Executive Director of East-West Center, the United States. Mr. Masato Seko, Senior Director of the Nippon Foundation, Japan. Welcome. And Dr. Ellen Hao Yang, Executive Director of TAEF Taiwan. Now let's give the floor back to the moderator.
Thank you for staying together with us until the last minutes before the dinner. And we spent a whole day at the summit. And summit is cold and very hot on top of the mountain. Now it's about time to go down and to join the crowd of people, right? So to work. So now the last session, the roundtable, I hope we are very happy to have so many distinguished panelists and who stay with us all day. And we got a new member to join us and to talk about how to go from here. You know, this data, all day we talk about TAEF is not only a think tank, but do tank. But the Satu said we are a people tank. So people in the crowd. And we have to join force with the people. And so we have to go now. Please, 5 panelists, please go down from the summit to the crowd of people and to get the real work. And that is the purpose of this roundtable. How do we go from here? What Taiwan can do to move to the next stage so that we can bring Taiwan, integrate Taiwan into the set of useful and workable Indo-Pacific strategic practices. So I think that is, I want to translate into the subtitle of the roundtable into more practice. So I'm sure all the panelists can provide very useful and wise suggestions. So first I want to call on Lin Fei Fan, Mr. Lin Fei Fan. Mr. Lin Fei Fan is, as MC just introduced, he is the new Deputy Secretary General of National Security Council at the President's office. So I'm sure he can share with, and he is in the summit. He is in the summit, and we are in the crowd. So we will bring him from the summit to the crowd and to say something the real people say. So tell us what to do. What do you think we can do? And to really bring this Taiwan New Southbound Policy Plus and link to the Indo-Pacific strategies. And I always think that over the 8 years, NSP and NSP Plus really serve as the practical ground to do the real thing the Indo-Pacific strategy should have done. And I think we are hand-on New Southbound Policy Plus and vision for Indo-Pacific strategy. So I think we are now moving away from New Southbound Policy. We are not moving away from New Southbound Policy Plus, but we are based on the New Southbound Policy with all the government effort and the non-governmental engagement. And we were moving to have the vision for Indo-Pacific, more broader, more deeper, and more have a more visionary. So, Fei Fan, this is your turn. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Xiao, and thank you for all the distinguished guests here to join this panel, and also all our participants here in the forum. I think that's a wonderful and truly delightful opportunity for me to participate in this forum and also this summit. But I think a couple of points I want to make before jumping into the perceptions or ideas of our Indo-Pacific strategy. I think the first thing that I would like to mention is that how we can interpret the current environment of the Indo-Pacific and also the current situation in Indo-Pacific region. I think that we have many countries representative here are all very well aware of the situation now. We're in a very unusual moment, I would say, in the 21st century. That we see that from a global arena, that we already see a lot of different conflicts happens in the different regions. We see that Russia's invasion to Ukraine hasn't been stopped. And also we see the tensions in Middle East is also rising. And we're also seeing the collaboration between authoritarian regimes, especially, represented by China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. And we call it as CRINC, as many of participants here might already heard about this name, like China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. But I think we have to understand that when the authoritarian regimes are collaborating with each other and they are strengthening their ties, and not just on the diplomatic ties, but also for the substance collaborations, and especially on the issues and also to practice their interoperability for the military. I think that's really a worrisome scenarios we're facing nowadays. So we have to have this understanding I think as a foundation for our further discussion, because that sets the background of all the discussion we should have today. And I think with that understanding, the next step is to dive into that what is lacking between the coordination among partners and allies in this region. Because when we see that all this collaboration between authoritarian states and regimes, that I think the implication is quite clear for us is that democracies and also the regional countries, especially regional democracies, have to understand that what we should do for stop this situation being, getting worse or going to a totally different level that we cannot return. So I think to have this understanding and to discuss all the topics that we should discuss before another crisis happen, I think that's a logic that I want to, also the background I want to bring to this stage, and also wish that all the participants can have the chance to think about. Because in the past few years, now we're already seeing that when China collaborating with Russia, Iran, and all these authoritarian states. But in this Indo-Pacific region, while we try to warm up a little bit about all the collaborations on security preparedness, but in a lot of areas, I think that people all understand that because of diplomatic constraints or restrictions, or even some of the limitations, I think there's a lot of hurdles and barriers that we cannot actually conquer or cross. So that sets for the current situation of the Indo-Pacific. And so I would suggest that look at those areas and to think about what's lacked in the picture, the whole picture of Indo-Pacific, and to think about how to strengthen that ties for the further cooperation. And I have some suggestion about this topic. So when China is helping Russia's invasion to Ukraine, as I mentioned many times, that if you look at the fact is their support to Russia's military preparedness, and I think their support for supply the critical components for Russia and also Iran to create their most strong capabilities or the missile systems or any other military weapon systems. I think we should also discuss among democracies how to gear up as fast as we can and to meet, perhaps to meet the gap that is we haven't fulfilled in the past. And that's a very substantive topic, I would suggest, because when you discuss all the level of all the topics about the strategic level stuff and lack of the operational level of thinking, and also I think without the actual policy practice and cooperation, I think we will probably trap ourselves in the discussion. Is more like what Dr. Xiao just mentioned. It's more on the summit rather than stay in the crowd and to do the actual work. So I would suggest that look at all these areas and to think about in the so-called Indo-Pacific strategies, what is lagged behind in these areas. And I would suggest that the interoperability among partners and allies, one key point that we should discuss. And also, I think the military balance in the Indo-Pacific now is totally, I think, already been disrupted. And now it's not there's no real balance in this region. And so we should think about how collectively all these democracies between Taiwan and other like-minded partners can also think about how to meet or how to fulfill the gaps of military imbalance. And that is another substantive topic that we should discuss as well. And the third thing, I think, move beyond from the military or defense issues, that we can also look at some of other issues, especially related to our own preparation nowadays, that we focus a little bit more rather than on the conventional or traditional military preparedness. We also focus a lot in this administration. It's about the societal resilience. And that is another topic I think the Indo-Pacific country can also think about how to strengthen. And the whole of society resilience program is actually one of the top priorities that we are working on. As many of you have already aware that President Lai has already focused a lot on in these areas. So we hope that it can also be a topic that we can bridge between Taiwan and also other like-minded states to also think about how to strengthen that collaboration. So I'll just briefly bring these three dimensions to let everyone to think about as a foundation for our discussion of the Indo-Pacific strategies, more based on the practical level, operational policies, rather than just the strategic levels of thinking. Yeah. So I'll stop here. Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Lin, indeed from the National Security Council. So you talk about security a lot, from a different kind of a security, you know, the civil security and military and information and so on and so forth. But I would like to call your attention. We have this advocating for Taiwan Indo-Pacific strategy. So make sure we bring the copies to him, so you can bring back to the president's office and let the president read and then to see how he think. And then in this our strategy, actually we have four changes. One, which Mr. Lin has elaborated very well. This called security resilient chain. And secondly, democratic value chain. The third is a non-red supply chain. And fourth is friendship and reciprocity chain. And all day we talk about four chains individually, how to work on that. And now we will integrate into the one strategic practices. So now I would like to invite Vice Admiral to share your integrative views.
Thank you very much. I thought that it is very important for me to be able to reference some of the discussions that we're going to have with some of the experiences that India has had, and see whether those will form a good enough template for the formulation of strategy. To begin with, as I said right in the beginning in the morning, we must be able to distinguish between, so these are recommendations. We must be able to distinguish between what is policy, what is actually strategy, and are the two conflatable? So, for example, the new southbound policy plus is policy. When people ask you what is happening inside that, the answer is nothing, because what is happening, any policy is merely a statement of the desired end state that you wish to have. Now, from that policy, you will formulate specific goals, both geo-economic goals, and you will have non-geo-economic goals, and these you must be able to enunciate. So it isn't good enough for us to have generalities in this subject. You must be able to say, these are Taiwan's geo-economic goals, A, B, C, D. These are Taiwan's non-geo-economic goals, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it's not necessary that you should make this into a public document, but you must have this document. If you do not have this first step, for example, India, in geo-economic goals, one of India's top geo-economic goals is to move from a $3 trillion economy or a $4 trillion economy in nominal terms to a $30 trillion economy, and do this by 2025. That's a goal. Okay, so then the guy says, how do you intend to achieve that goal? And so that answer of how do we intend to achieve that goal will be the strategy for that goal. And that strategy will be different for another goal, because another strategy will come. So another thing that I want to be able to re-emphasize here is what I said in the morning. For India, the Indo-Pacific is not in and of itself a strategy. It is a strategic geography. And in this strategic geography, India will have many strategies. Similarly, Taiwan must look at the Indo-Pacific and surely not be able to come up with one general integrated strategy, because if something means everything, it also means nothing. So you must be able to look at the Indo-Pacific, first of all, define how you want to examine the Indo-Pacific, whether in geographical terms, in functional terms, in conceptual terms, and then Taiwan must be able to thereafter develop specific strategies which will enable Taiwan to pursue and attain the goals that it has identified. If you haven't done this step, you can't go to the next step. And the next step is, in fact, formulating specific strategies. From strategies which will answer the question, from there you will need, just like we did, we will need to distinguish between what is a strategy, what is a plan. Most people use these words interchangeably, and at national level, this is a serious mistake. At academic level, it only gets you an F or a D minus, but it's not more important than that. But at national level, if you're mixed up between these two, there's a problem. So a plan will always tell you, sir, what is to be done, when is it to be done, how is it to be done, by whom is it to be done, for how long is it to be done. All this will be answered by a plan. A strategy will answer all of these questions, but must answer one more question. Why is it being done? So once again, Taiwan, in the development of an Indo-Pacific strategy or a set of strategies for goals relevant to the Indo-Pacific, geo-economic goals and non-geo-economic goals, has to do this business of answering for each of the strategies. Why are we doing this? What is it that we want actually? From there must emanate the plans which we are, that we need to formulate for Taiwan. And since this topic is really to integrate and recommend to Taiwan how Taiwan should proceed, there are some steps, and you cannot jump these steps. It's painful. It's sometimes pedantic, but you have to be able to do that. Currently, my assessment, having been associated with Taiwan for some years now, is that Taiwan hasn't got this. It hasn't done these steps. So could we do these steps? Who could do these steps? Very much the TAEF. Very much could do these steps, could project these steps. Then the government must decide whether to accept that, to reject that, to take some part of it. That's the government's prerogative. So I think that we need to go. Today's discussions were remarkably good because all the chains you've identified, they must end up in formulating those goals. And then those goals must drive strategy. Thereafter only can you start deciding what assets do you need. Do you need human asset? Is the human asset okay? Is the human asset required to be trained? Then that training will form a capability enhancement plan. Do you need physical asset? Do you need ship, aircraft, submarine? That kind of thing. Then you need capacity building. And then that will become a strategy. But if you just stay with generalities, it may not be the best way going forward. I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Admiral. And you gave us a homework to do, and we will do that. We'll pick up. Okay. And then Satu, it's your turn.
Well, again, thanks so much for the opportunity. Now, I'm a little bit in an awkward position because just in the previous panel, I thought, some very detailed suggestions about things that I felt Taiwan could do. And since we have the Deputy National Security Advisor here, I thought I'd just mention those before turning to a couple of other areas. First, I said that you know, because the new southbound policy plus, as well as the previous 1.0, are so expansive, covering Pacific, Southeast Asia, and South Asia, that it has been my feeling that at this stage of the development of the policy, it might be worthwhile to focus on what I called small modular relationships. 2 or 3 core relationships, trilateral or quadrilateral, that make particular sense for Taiwan's interests. That can be based on one of the 4 criteria that you've laid out. It could be because those 4 countries are critical to Taiwan manufacturing supply chains. It could be because those are 4 countries that you think are critical for defending and sustaining democracy. It could be because those countries are most critical to your view of the security threat that you face and that you, the National Security Advisor, spoke of. And it certainly could be about building the reciprocity and friendship network that you seek. So they don't have to be new, but since you're covering such a large area of Asia and the whole Indo-Pacific, and you've established the new southbound policy across the region, is it possible to highlight some specific relationships? And they don't have to be all the same for these 4 categories. They could be select, and they could be different. So you would cover a number of countries. So that's my first concrete suggestion. The second was really look at subnational elements. If you look at the composition and if you deconstruct Taiwan's supply chains and where it's invested, you'll see I was just in Vietnam, so I learned a lot about Taiwan and Vietnam. You know, Taiwan is concentrated in particular sectors and in particular places in those sectors. And it would be very interesting indeed if you built on those subnational links. The third, as I said, was looking at opportunities to work with existing energy-producing, what I call energy-producing minilaterals, those that are creating outcomes and activity. They're not just passive. So, of course, you can engage with East Asia Summit and with ASEAN in an indirect way, informal way. But I would say the Quad, the U.S.-Japan ROK trilateral, the U.S., Philippines, Japan, Australia quadrilateral, AUKUS even on the second pillar, look for ways on the private sector to combine with those. So that was the 4th thing. And then I'm going to stop with one other solution that I, as representing an institution, Deputy National Security Advisor, you don't know, but the East-West Center is a people tank. It brings Americans and Asians together to do collaborative study, research, and exchange. And the New Southbound policy does so many wonderful things connecting your different ministries, whether they be agricultural projects or education projects. I was thinking at this stage, wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone in the region could point to one initiative of Taiwan that everyone knows, as opposed to what initiative works in their country? Now, inevitably, I was thinking through what might be such an example. In the US, we have a program called the Y program, youth. But in the State Department's lexicon, that Y programs cover YSEALI, Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, YSALI, Young South Asian Leaders Initiative, Pacific Leaders Initiative, and there's one, I believe, for Africa and elsewhere. My point is simply this. What if Taiwan had a similar T program that was recognizable to the whole region, that everyone could dock onto or aspire to dock onto? You wouldn't have to start with everyone, but you could start with, again, with some select, so that it could be contained in terms of cost and exposure, et cetera. But I think, to me, a success of a program is always determined by the demand side for it, not the supply side. Lots of countries' supply side opportunities, and they're very good, like the New Southbound policy is a prime example. But when you really get catch, when you really get hook, is when there's a demand that exceeds the supply. So I'll end with simply saying that the next phase of the New Southbound policy, I think, can be both structurally integrated into your 4 priorities and into the broader Indo-Pacific, but with more targeted programmatic outcomes.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, when you talk about, Satu, you mentioned about T program, I have been thinking about the medical, the health. I think the New Southbound policy over the past few years, the government working with 7 hospitals, especially the big hospitals and their research centers, and working with the 10 countries in Southeast Asia and South Asia, and with a great extent of success. And we train the personnel, we help the diagnosis, and we also share the medical technologies. And I think with that model, which is people-centered, yes. What is more important to help people's quality of health? You know, what is more important to live longer and with health, with a healthy condition? So with that model into the Pacific countries, and we can, from South Asia, Southeast Asia, and to Pacifics, to make it Asia Pacific, and to make a viable model. So maybe that can be a step toward extension. So that will be something.
You're way ahead of me, Michael, because health is a key area of strength for Taiwan, and the COVID period showed that as well, and people recognize that. They still recognize it. I would only urge you to think about also ventures that other countries are doing, like mobile health teams, not just with established hospitals, but mobile health teams that go out into sectors that are not served by hospitals. That would be terrific, because that serves people that aren't getting to the hospitals. And if you travel around, for example, many of the countries in developing Southeast Asia, or for that matter, South Asia, hospitals, fantastic, but there are a lot of places that don't have hospitals, and Taiwan could dispatch, given its NGO system and health expertise, small batches of teams for delivering health supplies and services.
True. With this one center, multiple countries. Actually, we do have, besides the hospitals, Taiwan has a lot of medical volunteer groups serving in different countries, in Africa, you know, the Middle East, and so on and so forth. So that would be something to think about it. So thank you for your suggestion, a hint. Now, Seko-san, now it's your turn.
Thank you. well, thinking beyond the strategy, what matters most to me is how you can implement, how you can put into action the ideas being generated, recommendations. So that, to me, is the most important part, to have this strategy articulate in full terms. And I mentioned earlier that I see the strategy, both NSP Plus and Indo-Pacific strategy, in two dimensions. One is again, I repeat, is more on strategic cooperation in the area of traditional security. So that would need a like-minded countries to come together to talk about very much core security, hot security issues. So that's the first layer. The second layer is more on non-traditional domain, which is health is one, of course. Disaster response, disaster resilience be another strength that Taiwan has. Disinformation, fact-checking, this is also, with the technology that Taiwan has, can lead the region, and that is the implementable area that Taiwan can play an important role. So my comment would be focusing a little bit more on the second layer, which is on non-traditional security, because from the background, I would like to focus on my talk on that specific area. Again, of course, implementation is important, but how? It's not easy to, of course, easy to say, but how that can be put into action. One example that I can share is the model of blended finance. Any actions require funding, and of course, with other type of resources, but funding be the key to implement anything that has been recommended or been discussed. So the funding there. Basically, we can categorize the type of funding into two categories. One is philanthropic funding, the funding that does not require to pay back, like the grants from the foundations, or the subsidies from the government, or CSR funding from the corporates. These are the funding that is basically donation that does not require to pay back. The second type of this funding be more on investment space. Some are social-minded investment, including social impact investment, or venture philanthropists can provide funding, but an investment. These type of funding requires financial return. It's not a charity, but it is important to have those funding to be incorporated into the ecosystem for the solution building, because to ensure sustainability. The philanthropic funding, we always, of course, talk about sustainability, but it is by nature very difficult to ensure sustainability of any actions being funded by donation. You always have to keep asking for the funding. For the business entities that can provide social-minded investment, the business, it is sustainable by nature. You have to build financial return so that your operation can sustain, hopefully can expand. So this blended financing model be very important to ensure the implementation of the ideas. And I can give you one example in Japan on the area of disaster management. There's an organization called Japan Platform, which is funded by 3 sectors: government, the foundations, and the business sectors. So these 3 sectors are providing funding for this organization that is basically serving to provide services on emergency relief and a disaster situation. And the model's been working very well, operating both in Japan, because in Japan, as with in Taiwan, we have full of natural disasters. We have earthquake, we have tsunami, you have this volcano eruption, you have typhoon, almost everything in our country. So we have a relatively good expertise and in way we can handle this. And the funding is available in a way of pool funding. So we have been providing those services through the organization in Japan, And also that organization is also providing a early response team, dispatching early response team to other countries, like in Tonga. Remember that it has huge volcano eruption in Tonga, or in Turkey, or in Syria. In any countries, there's no geographical limitation to this. There are a mechanism that can be implemented with the funding available from the multiple stakeholders. And that is the way to provide a actionable and sustainable ecosystem to ensure that the ideas and the recommendation can be put into practice.
Great. Thank you. Good advice. Okay, Alan.
Okay, it's me again. We have navigated a few very insightful sessions for the whole day. My remark will be divided into a few points. Before I begin my remark, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to a few think tank friends, which during the framing of this summit, their input enlightened me so much. Number one, I think I would like to thank Admiral Chohan for his intellectual input, and sometimes we encounter some debate and some different opinions, but his reminder always, helped me to get through the difficulty that Taiwan was trapped. And number two, I would like to thank Seko-san. We had a discussion on different layers of the security or the cooperation, starting from the very hardcore military security, and then to functional cooperation that he just mentioned, and then to a more outreach of the civil society stakeholder, then to the international coalition of the willing. I think his point contribute a lot. And then I would like to thank Andrew for giving me the thought from the European opinion leaders. So their contribute to this framing of the summit really helpful. Then my remark will be begin with 3 questions, and I will provide my footnote and my answer. Number one, why does Taiwan need Taiwan's Indo-Pacific strategy? Number two, what means for this Indo-Pacific strategy of Taiwan? Number three, I think I also was enlightened by Sadhu that the T program, how Taiwan and our partner can materialize the viable and doable Indo-Pacific strategy. For number one question, why? Since we already have a new southbound policy and also the new southbound policy plus, if yes, we need to address the importance of Taiwan's Indo-Pacific strategy, what benefit that Taiwan can gain? If no, what cost that we will suffer? I think this is a matter of choice, and that will lead to the second question of what this IPS means to Taiwan. I think for 2 different meanings. Number one, it represents a strategic gesture that Taiwan is not only at the front line of the democratic front line that suffer the authoritarian expansionism every minute. Just as Admiral Chohan mentioned, we breathe, we practice yoga, and then we cause the threat to those authoritarian regime or leaders. So we, through demonstrating this, articulating this Indo-Pacific strategy that shows our very committed strategic gesture to demonstrate the common threat is there, and we need to address the cooperation to navigate through this uncertainty. And number two, that's for Taiwan per se. The Indo-Pacific strategy means what is on the table that Taiwan's priority concern are security, democratic value, resilient supply chain, and also the friendships. And not only the priority concern, that also come up with what Taiwan can offer beyond the pure friendship. We all know that during the past few years, semiconductor chips and bubble tea means everything to the world that Taiwan can share. But Taiwan definitely stand beyond the semiconductor chips and the bubble tea or Din Tai Fung dumpling. So we have much to offer. And we all know that the world have been keen to reach out to Taiwan to ask TSMC for the investment and also to send their young talent to Taiwan to learn how to produce a good semiconductor chips, to learn semiconductor knowledges. But we have more than that. So what Taiwan means, what this IPS means, I would say it's to incorporate Taiwan and to show our commitment to the Indo-Pacific strategy to the world, is to demonstrate the commitment and solidarity to stop the notorious injustice imposed by the authoritarian expansionists and their alliance. So this is something for our goal. What means to Taiwan, the Indo-Pacific strategy. If we say nothing, if we articulate nothing about this Indo-Pacific strategy, silence will end up with nothing, and the authoritarian leaders and regime will prevail in the long run. And then the third question, how to materialize a more inclusive Indo-Pacific strategy with Taiwan. I think Director Sadu mentioned the T program. T program that reminded me of the recent Nobel Medical Prize laureate. They found the T cell that can, cure the disease. So the T program, in terms of Taiwan's contribution, Taiwan can cure. Taiwan, through the health security, health corridor that we already, during the past 8 years, we already work with our neighbors by setting up 13 new southbound policy medical centers in 7 countries and training thousands of medical staff and doctors. Those demonstrate how Taiwan can cure, can save life, and also can contribute to the regional health security. So the T program is very meaningful. And for the security resilience, the number one dimension, the security resilience chain. In the morning, we discussed all kinds of the new type of security, such as cybersecurity, disinformation, and others. And we touch upon the comprehensive deterrence and end up with some common concern and a common interest and the call for international cooperation. Apart from that, Taiwan, under the President Lai Ching-te's administration, some civilian bottom-up momentum through the consolidarity of the whole society resilience happened. And the Fei Fan led this committee, and he just organized an annual event to celebrate the anniversary. And that led to the social momentum that we need to defend ourselves and also to mobilize the people to pay attention to our state survival and our social safety. So those are different from that the security resilience can address. And number 2 pillar, that is the democratic value chain. And this democratic value chain, we all argue that democracy should help with each other, but we have heard that democracy actually didn't talk with each other frequently. So that is a pity. So before democracy help with each other, we need to enhance the strategic communication among the democratic countries so that we can turn the like-minded mindset into a joint force that can materialize the common interest. And how about other non-democratic countries? I think they should also be inclusive because they also pay much attention to the good governance and also to the better quality of their administration. So with the same goal in mind, they can be the like-minded partner through the democratic value chain. And for the non-red supply chain, many countries in the Indo-Pacific argue that there should be a dual standard for this so-called trusted supply chain. And that has been argued by some developing country and want to do business with China and also want to grasp the US-led semiconductor ecosystem. But the truth is not that division of the dual standard, but we need to forge a trusted and resilient supply chain, not only for the semiconductor industry, but also for the high-tech production network. The focus is to stop the notorious manipulation and injustice imposed to the stake that we prioritized. So it is related to value and to trust. A case that we can mention, that is the underwater cable. That is the risk, a very serious risk, also imposed by some authoritarian expansionism. And we are lacking of the repair and recovery supply chain. So it's not only the semiconductor issue, but also those non-traditional security, maritime security, and also this underwater cable security, as also the critical mineral resources. Those are new frontier that we need to work together. And finally, friendship and reciprocity. And I think it is not this security, resilience, democratic value, and non-red supply chain eventually lead to friendship and reciprocity chain. Instead, those cooperation in the above mentioned 3 pillars should be heavily based on the friendship and reciprocity. I think that's the foundation of how we Indo-Pacific country can work together. And with the incorporation of T program, the T cell, then we can jointly shape the solidarity to stop the notorious injustice imposed by the authoritarian expansionism. I think I talked too much. I should stop here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I think the four chain we discussed all day, I think can generate. The next step is generating policy recommendations to the governments concerned, or to ourselves as the think tankers, and what we can do together on certain practical programming. So I think we can consider that for next gathering. Before we turn to the floor discussion, I would like to ask Mr. Lin, Deputy Secretary General of National Security Council, to respond to the rest of 4 panelists and say what would you like to respond? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Zhao, and thank you so much for this wonderful panel. I think I just got some of the quick feedbacks on the points that all of you just mentioned. I think the first thing is, I think I totally agree with the Vice Admiral mentioned about we should think about a goal first thinking before we set up any kind of policy goal. I think what's the strategy? The higher level of that is actually what's our goal, end state measurement. I think for our goal, if we are going to have our own Indo-Pacific strategy or Indo-Pacific policy, no matter what name is being called, I think the most important thing is to really think about what's the goal for everyone. I think for the Indo-Pacific countries. And for us, I think collectively, I think most important thing is to maintain the status quo and also to keep the international world order continue, be functionable. I think that would be the common Indo-Pacific strategy or goals for everyone. Because the reason why I'm saying this, because that we see, as I mentioned at the first point, that the geopolitical strategies or geopolitical environments that we are in now is totally disrupted by the authoritarian expansionism. So as Ellen just mentioned in the last point, I think the purpose of that is how we can make a balance or how we can effectively to push back the certain force trying to change the status quo and the regional world order. That's something that I think deeply, at least in the Lai administration or in the government position, I think that we see the environment every day. I think that should be one of top priorities when we are thinking of this Indo-Pacific strategy. So if we are able to set any goals, I would say that the goal is to maintain the status quo and regional world order or international rule-based international world order can be still functionable. So that's a first point. But I also agree with Satu just mentioned a couple of suggestions. I think that's really a good approach for us to really dive into the detail of the different layers of the Indo-Pacific strategies or New South Wales policy plus. I think a couple of responses, because we already have a lot of engagements in, I think, with all those like-minded partners in Pacific, no matter it's our formal allies or other like-minded partners that without the formal recognition of our country, but we do have that connection and a lot of initiatives that already take place, right? But I totally agree with that. We must think about resources because we have limited resources. We cannot compete in the money game with China or other authoritarian forces. So we have to prioritize the subject and also I think the countries or the projects we need to work on. So I totally agree with this. Maybe think of in a more creative way that what is that in the whole picture now? Like I think we mentioned a lot here, like no matter it's a subnational engagement or medical or health support or disaster relief cooperation, I think we do have that. And so the thing for us maybe is to think about how can we level that up to a level that is more, perhaps functionable, multilateral way to create the opportunity for Taiwan to be in a critical part of this. Taiwan do have some strengths, as everyone here recognizes. Like we do have the medicine in our medical sectors that we do have that expertise in helping people. Disaster relief, Ms. Seko-san just mentioned that we do have that. But how to use or utilize Taiwan's expertise and to put Taiwan into the position that is actually dispensable. Yeah, right. So, and that everyone to have the chance to really collaborate with Taiwan without considering of all these diplomatic constraints. So I think that's perhaps one direction we should think about. But I think no matter how we think of like existing programs that we have, we shouldn't avoid from thinking of the hardcore security issues. That's the core of the Indo-Pacific strategy. And we really need to think about that. And I know that TAEF and also a lot of partners of TAEF that we focus a lot on how to bring subnational levels engagement, how to deepenize the cooperation on different sub-issues. But on the core of the security collaboration, how to meet the gaps and also how to bring the foundation for the further collaboration, I mean, between state and states, between countries to countries, that is something that we should think about. Yeah. So that's my feedback. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just informed that the time is over already. I thought it was by 20 or 6:20. But anyway, so very glad. And let me, very good response from Mr. Lin. Let me use either I have a choice, dilemma. Should I go this way or go that way? So let me choose this way first. If you have any questions, any suggestions, advices, what we can do next after the whole day discussion? Yeah, Andrew and the one over there. Yeah, make it short and short and good.
Thank you. One of the suggestions raised in one of this morning's sessions was that the Whole of Society Resilience Committee could be extended to not just be Taiwan-focused, but also looking at bringing in other international partners. I'm interested as to whether that is part of the plan, on your horizons. So yeah, keen to hear the perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over there.
Yeah, thank you so much. As a partnership person and also as a person working on the regional, international, I'm curious to hear if we can prioritize just one thing to collaborate with Taiwanese friends, what will be the key priorities for us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karin, and thank you, Andrew. Any others? Any advice, suggestion? Don't feel pressure not to say something because of time. But time can wait for us. Why? The wisdom cannot wait for us. So we need your wisdom. Yeah. Anyone? If not, I will turn this one for then. Can each one of you present 1 minute the final wisdom? Admiral?
I don't know about wisdom. I want to say that, let me give you an example. Let's say that the requirement was, one of the goals is bring India into the security paradigm of Taiwan. This is the goal. Now, how should we, what should be the strategy? Let me give you an example. Prioritize, continuously talk to the Indians and say that the situation in Taiwan does not allow you to be a disinterested participant. If Taiwan should end up in a situation which is involving military action and Taiwan loses, then you are next. And there's no way, therefore, that you can afford to sit in sophisticated nonchalance, pretending that it's Taiwan's problem. Keep battering the requirement, so then the plans thereafter would be, okay, what mechanisms? We can't go to the parliamentarians in India. Can we find a neutral ground? Can we find them wearing other hats? This is what I mean by first establish a goal, then work the strategy for the goal. Thank you.
Good. I think it's a very good thing to say that we should, the think tankers should bark at the government and make noise. And the noise can be a good advice. Yeah. Okay. Satu?
I honestly, Michael, don't have anything to add. I would just say that I'm very taken with the focus on expanding to security. And I think that will be welcome in some countries with Indo-Pacific strategies, but not all countries with Indo-Pacific strategies. And it's a fine balance because it's certainly necessary and it should be very much part of what we do with Taiwan. But I'm always cautious that not everyone in the region will feel that way, and goes back to my point about on the security of the four pillars, on the security one, really pick your partners well.
Yeah, certainly the security is the integral part. We cannot do without it, but we cannot only limit to that. Yeah.
Right. So only suggestion is please, use private capital to achieve strategic goals, whichever strategic goal that I have set out. So the private capital can be risk tolerant compared with the taxpayers' money. It can be catalytic, can bring or to draw funding from other sectors, and can deploy fast. So please think of the way in which you can deploy private capital to achieve your strategic goal.
I would like to offer 2 keywords and 1 sentence. Number 1 keyword is well, the sentence is Taiwan is not the problem. Instead, Taiwan can be the solution. That's one thing. And the second, I would strongly endorse the cross-sectoral synergy, including the utilization of the private funding. Number 3, going back to today's topic, the Think Tank Summit, I strongly urge the think tank solidarity for a better and resilient Indo-Pacific future.
Good, thank you very much. Well, to wrap up, I think today we have 23 speakers representing 24 think tank organizations. There's one, Dr. Shen Mingshi, actually represents 2 think tanks in Taiwan. So we have 24 think tank, and with TAEF as the helping hand, and we are very keen to deepen our existing cooperation and also dialogue with each of these 24 think tank organizations. Some are very new to us, but some with some initiation discussion, and some with a few years cooperation. And we certainly, step 1 to take is through TAEF to continue this think tank summit. Maybe next time we'll call Indo-Pacific Think Tank Summit or think tank forum. And so that will be our next step. And also we will certainly will come to the practical solutions, suggestions, based on our existing links, dialogues, and programs. So we hope that we can continue to do so. And so let me say the last words. Thank you very much, panelists and the speakers and audience and the ambassadors, representative, and you spend all day here. Thank you very much. And bring that message to your government, and so that we can work together in one way or another. Also, thank you very much, and have a good evening.